X2 Wolverine's Revenge is not tied in with the X2 movie despite being called X2 and having Hugh Jackman's face on the cover. One neat thing though is that if you bought this game when it first came out, it came with a movie ticket to X2. A few years after it came out, I bought a copy as a kid, and then I saw the ticket only to find out it was expired by like years. But it's still cool. There's also expired Baskin Robbins coupons in there, but I don't know if that's because it was a tie-in with the game, or because I bought a used copy and someone left the Baskin Robbins coupons in there. X2 follows its own story, starting in the Weapon X facility when you first become Wolverine. Also, Wolverine is voiced by Mark Hamill, which is pretty crazy. What can't Mark do? What a talented guy. This game has this primal vision thing used for stealth and avoiding traps. It's sort of like detective vision for Arkham, except nowhere near as good, and you can't see through walls and you move super slow. And mines, you have to be hella close before you see them. A benefit to it, though, is it lets you see in the dark. There are entire levels in the dark. I do wish it was a toggle on and off option, though, because I didn't like holding it down for such long periods of time. Combat-wise, you aren't very tough at all, and you can easily become overwhelmed in a fight. This isn't a hack and slash the way later X-Men games do it, and this one, any more than like 2 or 3 enemies can really be a problem. Fighting with your claws out does more damage, but putting your claws away allows you to heal. And with how tough the enemies are and how insanely slow you heal, half of this game will be spent staying in one spot while your health really slowly fills up so you can move on. There's also a rage meter in which Wolverine's face goes crazy. This makes your hits far stronger, but the issue being, if it fills up all the way, you automatically go into rage mode, and this can be inconvenient, especially in later levels. There are strikes which do cool animations and help you out, so you gotta watch for your chance to use them. And stealth really kinda sucks at first because it doesn't do a great job teaching you how to use it. But I'd say once you get it down, the stealth aspect is actually kinda fun and one of the strongest parts of the game. It's not super good though. Don't compare it to good stealth titles. It's just more good enough that it's one of the best parts of the game, you know. It's still something you gotta practice. There's also a slide attack, which can be super useful when it works, but during stealth, it can be a nightmare as it won't fucking hit where you need it to. Our first boss is Sabretooth. I think he has an alright boss fight. You mainly get behind him and you throw him at things. I also really like how this Sabretooth looks, and that he isn't the movie version. The plot of the game is that all Weapon X participants have a poison that will kill them, and they need the antidote. And Sabretooth is just fucking with us. I think maybe he's after the antidote too, but it's honestly hard to tell in this game with him. Professor X is here, and he's also still played by Patrick Stewart. Plenty of other X-Men show up, including Beast, Colossus, and lots of shots of Rogue's ass. The puzzles can range from interesting to why the hell won't this work? In our second boss fight versus Wendigo, we have to either throw him or draw enemies into Wendigo for him to eat, and any other game this would work fine. But in this game, not only does it not tell you how to grab, but also it's a pain in the ass to even get the enemies closer to him. For you to grab, you gotta wait for it to tell you there's a strike option, then you gotta press both attack buttons at once. And the other issue is just waiting too much for the enemies to even fucking show up. There was so much time where I just stared at Wendigo, wondering when I'd have another chance to do anything. Fortunately, the Wendigo fight isn't that bad. It's sort of like the Mario 64 fight where you gotta grab the tail and you throw him and you say, "So long, gay Bowser," you know. Sometimes there are things that add variety to the gameplay, and well, usually I do praise that. Here I hate it, because everything they add to the variety is so garbage that it makes me go, please send me back to the main game. There's these turret sections that not only suck, but they're really easy to die in. You'd think you'd be more powerful in a turret, but you're not. I think I'd beat the level easier if it let me fucking not be in the turret. There's sections of escorting scientists are weirdly not that annoying. I hate escort missions, but these ones aren't that troublesome. But sections where you just gotta run while everything shoots you, why do those exist? Maybe they exist, but you can make like a stealth way around that could be kinda good, you know? But no, there's just sections where you just gotta run while everything shoots you. And these things can end your life in fucking seconds if you slow down a little bit. Also, any level where you have to control a robot mech made me unreasonably upset. First off, the mech controls like absolute garbage. Its aiming is constantly fighting you. Only the homing missiles can reliably be used for aiming, but the gun is constantly fighting to go in directions while you have to make it go where you actually want to go. And it's inverted on top of that. Thank God this wasn't a first-person shooter, because this is the most broken part of the game and should not be here. I don't think there's been a game where aiming felt this bad. It was so hard. On top of that, the mech dies really fucking easy. You gotta fight from a fucking distance so that no one kills your giant robot fucking mech. And if they do, you don't get another one. Which, you might as well start the level over again because you need that fucking mech. I mean, you can fight the other robots as Wolverine, but they will kill you super fast, and if they don't, it will take an eternity to beat one, and sometimes the game just will not let you beat one. I even cheesed it and let myself heal so I could fight it longer and see if it could be done, and there were some that it just would not let me beat, that were just basically invincible unless I used a mech. And that's another fucking thing. There are no checkpoints in this game. If you die, you start at the beginning of the level, and some of these levels can be brutally difficult. Add that to me standing around to heal half the time, and you have a very frustrating game. Robot-wise, it's best to just slowly shoot enemies from really far away with rockets and creep up on new ones while staying out of range. We then have another battle with Sabretooth, which again isn't bad. Honestly, the boss battles and stealth sections are where the best parts of the game are. Which is good, because the next set of levels have us don a costume and try to blend in with other guards, and that's actually kinda cool. Unfortunately, they ditched this idea really fucking quickly after introducing it, and it goes back into being more garbage levels, including some fights that seemed absolutely unwinnable. I thought maybe I was doing something wrong, so I looked up a walkthrough to be like, okay, show me how it's actually done. And in the walkthrough, the guy used cheats to get past certain parts. Holy shit, man, something might be a bit broken with your game if you gotta do that. I managed to beat it after dying a million times, cheesing the fuck out of the AI, being cheap, getting damaged on purpose so I could fight certain turrets before I should have, etc. And then just doing lots of fucking sliding. And you know what? After all that time and beating it fair and square, it's not fucking worth it. Some challenges give you satisfaction of overcoming. This was just me battling against the game and not with the game. So many times I fucking wanted to quit. And never did I get excited when I beat harder parts or whatever. It never felt rewarding or anything like that. I was so glad to get past this bullshit part that existed in the game. So yeah, I beat it without cheats, but I don't recommend it at all. If anything, good on the walkthrough guy for using cheats, because that's honestly what I should have done. Would have made the game much more enjoyable. Sabretooth unleashes multiple villains though, so we gotta go fight them. Omega Red, Juggernaut, and Magneto. The Juggernaut fight is, again, pretty good. I might say it's the best fight in the game, maybe. It's, however, followed up by the worst bullshit boss fight in the game. Before this level, I think I would have said, hey, this game has some good stuff, has some bad stuff. It's not awful. Give it a try if you're a big X-Men fan. But after fighting Magneto, I can no longer even say that. I'm just going with a review of watch someone else play this or use cheats while playing this. because this Magneto fight is bullshit. So first off, Magneto and Wolverine should not even be a fight. The guy made of metal versus the guy who controls metal, there is a clear winner there already. But to balance it more, Magneto has to wear this collar that dampens his powers. Not only do you have to beat Magneto, but you have to make him not get rid of his collar. If his collar hits 50% of power, you can't heal for some reason. What the fuck is that bullshit? How does Magneto control whether you can heal or not? If it hits 0 power, you just automatically die. So I found myself puppy guarding the area where he could try to get rid of his collar for too long. Basically, you just gotta fucking chase him, and then you gotta puppy guard the area, and you gotta do that for way too long. Now, you do need to go up after him using a jump attack. This is the first time in the game we ever fucking use this at all. And whether the only thing you can use to really attack this boss works is the 50-50 shot, and I'm not fucking kidding you. And even if it does work, you fall down, and sometimes there's fucking lava under you. Magneto is constantly moving, and it can be hard to see him. With it being dark and him being small in the room, and the room kind of being huge with lots of things in your way, it can be difficult to fully keep a track on him. And even your predator vision isn't very helpful, as it makes you really slow. When enough things hit you, and they will, you'll go into a rage mode, and that makes your visibility even worse and even more blurry. And even when you do successfully hit him, you could find yourself thrown into lava or damaged by a stun attack, and you barely hurt him. His health takes so fucking long to get down, and this fight is very long. There's no checkpoints, and every time you die, you will start over. Even if you spent a good fucking half hour fighting him and his health is just at almost nothing, he can easily turn the tides if you fuck up once and he gets his collar off. Because he can get his collar off in a matter of 5 seconds. I'm not even fucking kidding you. Or there are times where he's destroying his collar and you're throwing punches directly at him and they just fucking miss him. Which is a death sentence, because by that time you're dead. He's taken away your ability to heal, which might as well mean you're dead. This is the most broken, unfun, stupid boss fight I've played in quite a while. Honestly, it will keep me from ever replaying this game again. Our last boss fight is against Lady Deathstrike, and this is my favorite version of her I've ever seen. It's neither a movie version or a comic version that I know of, although I guess it could be, I just don't know. It's a heavily cyborg version of her in leather. She's the final boss, and apparently this was her plan all along, because she hates Wolverine. This fight is honestly really hard, but not in the same way the Magneto one was. With each time I could get better, and well, yes, luck was involved, it was far less than the Magneto one. This one was also, really hard. The Magneto one was just unfair. I will always pick hard but fair over hard but broken. That said, there is some bullshit with her, as Wolverine can easily swing and miss, and that can cost you when it doesn't feel like it's your fault. But again, it was a breath of fresh air after that Magneto fight, that even though it's a little broken, felt so much better. So Wolverine gets his cure, and that's the game. But then he remembers, oh shit, he never stopped Omega Red, which either existed as a teaser to a sequel, or because they didn't have time to add Omega Red. And I'm leaning towards the second one, as there are music tracks in the game labeled for an Omega Red fight, it just didn't happen. I gotta say, there's too much broken here to feel finished. If given another month or two to polish a lot of things, this could be a good X-Men game. However, as it stands, I really don't like it. I know the game has its share of fans, and that's fine. I'm just not one of them. If you play this game with level select and cheats, hey, that could be a fun game maybe. But pure vanilla? So not worth it. X-Men 3, the official game. Or is it just X-Men, the official game? Depends how you look at it. Wolverine does his 3 thing that was also done for the X-Men 3 movie, and this was the movie tie-in game for X-Men 3. Yeah, I'm mainly seeing it be called X-Men the Official Game, and not X-Men 3 the official game. So whatever, it doesn't follow any of the events of the X-Men 3 movie at all in any way, other than the likenesses of the live-action characters and their voices. The game is also not tied into the X2 movie game. That one used a more unique style of visuals than this game, and this game's just trying to look more like the movie. In X-Men the official game, there are 3 playable characters, and each character has their own levels, and they're all separate the entire time. Iceman lets you slide around on ice while using ice projectiles to fight things. His levels are kind of the weakest, and his boss fights are pretty underwhelming. Most of the gameplay is just target shooting while sliding, or dodging things or beating time limits. When you beat a level, you can level up based on the difficulty you played, so it's often good to replay the level on higher difficulties afterwards, or to just start with the higher level difficulty once if you think you can do it. Iceman's levels are the biggest, I assume because he needs more room, and his later half is all about fighting sentinels, which I must admit, the visuals of this super fucking giant sentinel is really cool. Overall, I wouldn't say Iceman is bad in any way, just kind of mediocre. Nightcrawler is our second character, and wasn't even in X-Men 3. But that's okay, this isn't an X-Men 3 game, even if the loading title says it is. With Nightcrawler, you can teleport all around to wherever the blue dot on the screen is. You can also teleport to attack enemies, and honestly, this is pretty fun. I've had the teleportation done better in games, and it can be really unreliable when you are on a time crunch and need to move fast, but overall I think it works well enough that it's still pretty fun. It's very satisfying to jump from guy to guy just beating the shit out of them. Level design could be improved, but again, it's not awful. There are also levels where you fight Multiple Man, who's placing bombs and you gotta stop him. But Storm is there too, and you can control her doing a lightning strike whenever it's powered up to take out a lot of enemies. But use it strategically, because you're on a time limit. I actually really like this, and I wish other X-Men would show up and you could use them for different power-ups and different levels. Sadly, the only other one we see is this non-Russian version of Colossus who happens to be weak as fuck and needs you to protect him. There's even this level where we're in hell, sorta, but not really because it's an illusion by Master Mold. What even is the plot here? There really doesn't seem to be one. There's just like several plots unconnected to any main story. Last off is Wolverine, and he has the most levels. Wolverine's levels are hack and slash. And I like this so much better than the X2 combat. It's just much more fun and enjoyable. You actually feel like you're slicing and dicing the way Wolverine would. And not to the point where the enemies aren't a challenge. There can still be a challenge. Some of your enemies can be tough. But this is more like how Wolverine should play, I feel like. He also can have his claws out and heal at the same time. And that's how it should have always been. I don't know why so many games either make him not heal, or they make him only heal if his claws are in. Also, for some reason, everyone in this game can heal. They gotta do it more strategically than Wolverine. Because Wolverine just constantly heals, and that's how it should be. As Wolverine, I should feel like a threat because my healing is so fast, you know? In X2, after every fight, Wolverine's gotta fucking just, like, I don't know, go to the fucking hospital and wait for a while is what that feels like. In this one, he's healing as he's fighting, and it's just like, oh shit, this guy is unstoppable. You know, that's how you fucking should feel. Wolverine has 2 health bars. One that is heavy damage and one that heals automatically. And for the heavy damage one, you do gotta actually stop fighting to heal it. But I feel like that's different and a completely reasonable thing compared to the other. On top of that, if you have your rage mode going off at the time, it heals that too. And the rage mode here is just overall more useful. This version of Wolverine is actually pretty fun. I wish some of the button inputs were changed around, mainly like the rolling, but it's pretty good. Level-wise though, Wolverine's levels suck. It's generally just 2-ish rooms, and you fight waves of enemies, and then the level's over. Some levels don't even have 2 rooms, they're just 1 room with waves of enemies. So I'm guessing they didn't have a lot of time on this game because its levels can be really short and there isn't a lot of content in this game. X2, despite me not liking it, actually felt like a full-ass game. This one feels like half a game got made and then they had to stop working on it. It's pretty short, which is why I think they make you replay it on higher difficulties to level up to pad out the time. The boss fights are kind of fun. I enjoy the Lady Deathstrike fight. She looks like her movie version from X2 here and not the one from the X2 game. It was also fun coming back to her after I was extra powerful and just destroying her. Silver Samurai is here and that's cool. He actually ends up as a movie character like a decade after this game, so that's cool too to see what he could have looked like compared to how he eventually looked. And last off we have a Sabretooth boss fight, and I really like this. Both Sabretooth and you are healing at the same time in the same way, so it's a fucking race to make sure his health goes down faster than yours and stays there. Overall, X-Men the official game is mediocre. There's definitely stuff in here to enjoy, for sure. But I don't think it's a good game, I think it's mediocre. X-Men Origins is far different than the Uncaged edition that the 360 and PS3 got. This one on the PS2 still follows the movie kinda, and is still a hack and slash, but it's way worse and way dumber. An army of lumberjacks attack you because they are mad you do better work than them. So you as Wolverine just kill like 50 lumberjacks. There's also strange QuickTime event platforming, and boss fights also have a lot of QuickTime events as well, and they seemed fairly interesting. However, the game kept locking up on me though, and every like 5 minutes became unplayable, which was fine because I wasn't really enjoying myself that much. Other than the boss fights, which were kind of fun to watch, but not so much fun to play. Really focused on QuickTime events, so I booted up the PSP version instead. And the PSP version is also a hack and slash, but to my surprise, this wasn't the same game as the PS2 one, or the 360 one. It did use cutscenes from the 360 one, but it does its own thing. This one also follows the film, but probably the least out of all of them, as it mainly has Logan in a chair being tortured and reliving flashbacks. And the flashbacks are what the levels are. I will also say this one felt a lot more fun to play. It's still a hack and slash, but it has these leaping from one enemy to another mechanic that helps it feel a lot more fast-paced and badass. And I can't tell you how much that one mechanic helps the gameplay. Like, there was still stuff from the film, like the Creed bar fight or the escape from the facility, but then it had its own shit too, like fighting giant monsters and such, which was pretty mediocre. Honestly, that describes the game. It isn't good, but it's certainly not bad. It's just totally fine, and the second best of the 3 X-Men Origins Wolverine games I've played. You also fight Deadpool as the final boss, like in the film, and I gotta say, if he wasn't Deadpool, he would be a cool character. A cool design and a badass who doesn't talk, kinda giving me Snake Eyes or that one villain from Hellboy, but him being Deadpool is what makes this so bad. You can't just destroy a beloved character by turning him into basically the opposite of his character. Another thing holding this game back is its rated T rating. You don't even cut off a head at the end, some rocks just fall on him. This game is totally alright, but that's about it. X-Men Next Dimension is basically those X-Men Mutant Academy games from the PS1, except for this one's from the PS2, and with a kind of different art design. Combat is mostly the same, although it seems as if movesets are a little bit different, and Wolverine's is super noticeable as he went from one of my favorites to pretty mid, and I ended up using other characters more. Tons of characters are here, even if some of them are sorta doubles. On top of that, the characters got 8 fucking costumes each, which is absolutely awesome, other than the fact you can't see what you have picked until you get into the game. And that can take a while, because loading times are ridiculously long. It's honestly crazy, and it really hurts the game. But the actual gameplay, totally fine. This is so much X-Men Mutant Academy, I don't know why they didn't just call it X-Men Mutant Academy 3, and why they decided it would be X-Men Next Dimension. It also has stage transitions, which is pretty cool. and it's got a pretty sick roster of characters, including Bastion, who I didn't even know who he was until X-Men 97, which just came out, and he's here all the way back in this game. It's a totally decent fighting game, and I would still pick X-Men Mutant Academy 2 over it, but it's totally decent. X-Men Legends predates Ultimate Alliance as the first of Raven Software's superhero dungeon crawler action RPGs. Despite that, I will be comparing it to Ultimate Alliance because I feel like more people have played that. In this game, you pick of a team of 4 X-Men. This makes it fun not just for picking the team, but also if you have friends who want to play, then all 4 of you can play. Now, despite that this sort of game is one of the best for playing with friends, it opens up on a mission where you can only play one player as Wolverine, and your friends would have to wait some time before being able to join. The game isn't tied into movies, but is more tied into the comics. However, Patrick Stewart is still Professor X, and that's never a problem. This game has a lot of story beats that seem very common for X-Men, like a woman being captured but escapes thanks to the X-Men and will now be part of the X-Men, so that we have a character to be our character introduction to the X-Men. They did it with Jubilee in the 90s, they did it with Rogue in the live-action film, and here we have a new character, Magma. I really don't like her that much, but I chop most of that up to her voice, which isn't fair, because it's not like I have the best voice. The game is separated into action segments and mansion segments. In the mansion segments, you get to explore the mansion, talk to students and X-Men, look at the collectibles, do trivia, explore bedrooms. I love that you can easily identify Iceman's bedroom. Honestly, having the mansion hub world is awesome, perhaps one of my favorite hub worlds. I love getting to talk to everyone, and as a kid, this was a super great way to learn about the X-Men. As an adult, though, I did notice this game was more, not dark, I guess? Like, I guess I remembered it being a little more edgy as a kid, but as an adult, it's very, very PG. It's not a bad thing. I just matured, and this was the perfect game for me at the age I played it. But present-day me still kind of cringes a lot at the lines. This isn't to say that they're bad. If you've seen the X-Men cartoon from the 90s, I'd say the tone is like right about there.
Somebody help me! Mom! Mom! I'm not a mutant! I swear I'm not! Rob, grab the girl and get out of here!
Get out of my way! Come here, you! Mind if I cut in?
Every character has 4 powers, and you can level up each one, as well as leveling up yourself, just in general. One big difference from Ultimate Alliance is that you have health packs, rather than gaining health from just fighting. I prefer the other way, but this way doesn't bother me that much. The game is a bit ugly, I must say. I know they improve in future games though, but still this one's a bit ugly. Now one thing I hate is you always gotta have either Iceman or Jean Grey with you, because there's only certain characters who can make bridges, and they force you to have a character who can make bridges. Sure, sometimes I found weird ways around that, but if I was gonna progress through the level, often I would need a bridge, and to make it mandatory to have a character who can do a certain thing already limits the freedom of who my team is going to be. I'm totally fine with you having certain characters have certain powers that can open up like special secret locations or hidden locations or something, you know? That sounds cool. But to make it like mandatory to have a specific character with you kind of ruins the whole point of the freedom of the choice to create your own X-Men team. Cutscenes are pretty good. The story is stuff I've just heard a bunch of times. It's like stop Magneto and stop the Sentinels, but like it's not bad. It's still a lot of fun. Most of the levels are bland, and some even make you go back to them 2 or 3 times, which can honestly feel like a big waste of time. However, there's this level called the Astral Plane, which just has a really cool design. It's a plane of the mind, meaning only telepaths can go. So in one level, you get to play as Professor X, and he's just straight up OP, which is awesome. I love playing as him. But then this dude named the Shadow King, who looks kind of like off-brand Venom, takes him prisoner.
Quickly, that portal will take you to Illyana.
We're not leaving without you, Professor. Don't be a fool, girl. We must escape.
Get out!
So you have this machine, right, that will allow non-telepaths to go into the astral plane to save him. Which, by the way, I didn't realize how many telepaths we have, but we got Professor X, Jean Grey, Emma Frost, and Psylocke. And honestly, most of them are good. The game made me choose more tactically who I had on my team. I found that 2 melee fighters, 1 energy fighter, and 1 person to open a bridge seemed like the best team. I can't recommend Storm enough. Also, Wolverine heals, so that saves on med packs. And once you beat the game, you can also play as some of the enemies in the danger room, and I thought that was pretty cool. You have 2 shops you can buy from during the game, Forge and Healer. But most of the time, you will get items on the field from fallen enemies and barrels. And Magma was a fine character. She plays good. But I also never wanted her on my team unless I was forced to. Not anything against her, I just liked my team. In fact, I feel like a lot of the others were better than her, even Cyclops. I don't even like Cyclops, and I felt he was a really good character in the game. Now, the one part that got me the most excited, I think, was when we found out they were, like, blending humans and Sentinels together, which I was like, oh, this could be interesting and lead to, like, a kind of dark area. It didn't. They just kind of mentioned that they were doing it, but we never really explored that much. We just beat the shit out of them. Overall, this is a good game, and one of the best X-Men games. It does have enough flaws, though, to keep it from being like a great game, but it's still a good game. Both its sequel and Ultimate Alliance do better, but again, this one's still worth a play. Even more so if you need an introduction to the X-Men, as this one's really good for that.
I have to give him credit. The brat Illyana served her purpose.
Give who credit? Someone told you to kidnap Illyana?
No one would dare give an order to Shadow King. I was advised.
X-Men Legends 2 is very similar to the first game in terms of gameplay. You could easily hop right into one after the other, and the differences are so minute, it might as well be the same game. There are a few differences though that do make it better. First off, levels. No longer do you have to play the same levels over and over and over and over again, but now they are each their own thing. Next would be you start off with 4 characters, none of that one player section the first games had. It also didn't feel mandatory to bring specific characters even if I didn't want them, the way that the first game did. You also have the character Blink make portals so you can teleport back to the base at will. That said, you will need this because the game throws gear at you like candy and you will have your inventory fill up way too fast, in my opinion. From the beginning, you have almost all your characters unlocked, and that's either a good or a bad thing. On the good side, lots of choices are great. On the bad side, it also meant I didn't try out as many characters as I did in the first one. On top of that, my main team, I leveled so far past what the others were, it was like being punished for ever trying to use any other characters. In this one, you got the Brotherhood and the X-Men working together, which means you can actually play as Brotherhood. I will say I am disappointed in the roster though. No Mystique, no Sabretooth. They still appear in the game, but not playable characters. But for some reason we get Iron Man. He's not even a mutant. He doesn't even have powers. I will say there was choices I really liked though. It was an interesting choice to have Scarlet Witch. And Magneto, he's fucking so cool. I've been watching X-Men 97 and I just love him, so I had to add him to my team. Same with Rogue, although I'll admit, She isn't the greatest in this game, and I should have swapped her out for someone else, but I just like her. Wolverine is a monster and was who I played as most of the time. I opted to play on the PSP as it has a few more characters and outfits. The game also has Deadpool in it, which was the first Deadpool voice I ever heard, and it's how I imagined him sounding until Ryan Reynolds. That said, I'm kinda metaed out. I am jokey superheroed out. I'm not saying it's bad, you can like what you like, but for me, it's honestly getting kind of annoying. I didn't find his jokes that funny. And in a current state of superhero movies, characters that are non-stop joke tellers and never serious has just really put a major burnout on this kind of character for me.
Nope, sorry, can't do it. I really want you all dead. And not the kind of dead where there's a possibility that you might still be alive. I want you so dead that you'll be reincarnated as a corpse. I did work as a video game programmer for a few months. Does that count?
I haven't enjoyed Marvel in years, and now X-Men 97 came in and made me a happy boy, and to think I almost didn't watch it because anytime I tried to watch anything Marvel, I left feeling meh. Which I also have to say, nostalgia goggles off, I remember the writing in this game being better than it is, but it's not good at all. It's very much for kids. Which is not a bad thing, it just means now that I've grown up, I have trouble taking it seriously.
Angel, come forth and meet your master.
The name Angel no longer applies.
What would you have us call you?
I am Archangel, a horseman of apocalypse, and I am yours to command.
Your speed and strength have been augmented. But what of your soul?
My soul is filled with hatred, rage, and death for the X-Men.
With the Brotherhood and the X-Men teamed up, we go off to fight Apocalypse, who has really quickly taken over the world, so now we are taking it back. There are 5 acts each, with their own missions and home bases. Marvel Ultimate Alliance would continue this kind of thing directly after. One of the home bases is even a destroyed version of the X-Mansion. Lots of the characters are here, including little-known ones, like Sugar Man. Who the fuck expected him to be here? Apocalypse also makes the stupidest claim ever, acting like he was a good guy for making the Brotherhood and the X-Men work together. My guy, what? That's like saying Hitler was a good guy for getting different countries to work together. No. That's not how that works when you're committing genocide, my guy. Anyway, this game is good, and I'm sure many will disagree with me. But I like the first one better. I like the story better. I like going around the X-Mansion and talking to people. I like the roster better. I just prefer that one. Both are fantastic games though, and they're probably the best X-Men games out there. But I do think we could do better. I do think we could do better.